Former GOP congressional nominee from Maryland, Kimberly Klacik, is joining us live this morning. Kim, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So first things first, we're going to bring it back to January. I just want to know your reaction and your thoughts on that Capitol attack and the attackers themselves.
Yeah, so like many others in the Republican Party, we do not condone what happened on January 6th. Obviously, we thought people were going down to the Capitol for the Stop the Steal rally where Trump spoke, but we had no idea that some of the bad actors would then march to the Capitol and wreak havoc on, basically our house there in Washington, D.C. that belongs to every American. So we don't condone the attack. I know now I've been in D.C. Often since the attack. We've got a wall that's gone up around the Capitol. So it looks like the members of Congress are pretty safe. The National Guard are still there. But I wish we had some of that safety, in places like where I am in Baltimore City. But I'm glad that they are taking safety and precaution for their own lives.
And obviously it was shocking, like you said, to the Republican Party, but to the entire nation. Do you believe the aftermath of this and just what happened with those protesters, those rioters, was just?
Well, for I know, the FBI is still working on this. I know there's been lots of arrests. So for me, that's great. I think that's what we do. Everyone's entitled to due process. That's how we work here in America. But like I said, we've got murders that aren't solved in Baltimore City. We have families that are still looking for justice for their families, family members, I should say. And so here we are. I'm watching what's going on Capitol Hill, and I'm glad they're taking action for their lives and their safety, who are protected by Capitol Police 24/7. But we have a lot of Americans across this country that don't feel that they are protected. And as we saw across the state or across the entire country over the summer, we saw lots of riots, whether you want to classify them as BLM or Antifa or whatever anyone wants to say they are. But we saw lots of small businesses lose their livelihoods. We saw lots of people being attacked across the country. So again, I see that members of Congress are safe. I just wish the rest of America was safe as well.
And now going back to the former president, Donald Trump, what happens to the GOP now? He's out of office. He got acquitted from his second impeachment trial. What's next?
Yeah, it's crazy. President Trump, he's been out of office for some time now, but he's still like the #1 story. But for what's next, the party's splintered. There's no question there. So now Republicans, the GOP in a whole, needs to decide which way they want to go. They want to be the party of President Trump, that's for transparency, that puts America first, or do they want to continue down the road of the establishment? For myself, I'm not for the establishment. I think we can all agree that the establishment Republican Party was never very welcoming to minorities. And I am someone that wants to make sure that going forward, that Republican Party is diverse, not just in race or gender, but in thought. And so I'm saying, look, if you want to really make some movement here across the country as the GOP, you have to welcome minorities as well. And so that's something that I'm going to be fighting on the front line.
And do you think that Trump welcomed minorities just in general and in the Republican Party? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think there were more minorities that ran for Congress under President Trump because he was so welcoming, because he didn't have that language where he talked about, the Republican Party needs to do this, that, or the other. He just put America first in general. And I think there were a lot of minorities like myself that looked at that and said, look, this is a party that I can definitely get behind and run for. I've been a Republican since 2009, but I really started pushing my platform out there once President Trump was in office. And so for me, we had a record number in Baltimore. I ran in Maryland's congressional district #7. We had about 6 Black Americans that ran for city council in Baltimore City as Republicans. And so I think moving forward, we're going to see a lot more Republicans, Black, Hispanic, and women coming out.
But what about Trump's rhetoric? I'm just really interested in your thoughts because, you say that he did welcome minorities, but just his ties to certain groups, some people really didn't feel safe under his presidency, under his reign. So can you just talk about that? And also I want to know your thoughts on if you feel like now since Trump's out of office, do you believe the GOP is split, or do you think that, y'all are stronger than ever?
There's no doubt that we are split. As far as President Trump, I think sometimes people think, with their emotions rather than being rational and logical. I mean, sometimes people didn't like what President Trump would tweet or say. I get it. But if you look at the policies that he put forth and make sure he got across the line, I myself am friends with Jerron Smith, a black man that worked for the president, and he was instrumental in making sure they got the First Step Act across. In Baltimore, that is very important. We have a lot of people coming out of incarceration not equipped or have the skills to go on to get a career, not just a job. So that First Step Act made sure that they got out of prison, but actually had some kind of form of skills, whether it was computer skills, whatever they needed to make sure that they went on and got a job so they didn't end up back in the prison system. And so for me, that's huge, again, from where I sit in Baltimore. But yes, the party is splintered. Yes, we have a lot of work going forward, but I think that opens the doors up for someone like myself and, again, other minorities to really take the reign and push forward.
And what needs to happen to unify the Republican Party?
Well, you know what? I don't know if unifying the Republican Party is first on our list, right? We're focused on flipping the House. We're focused on flipping the Senate, and obviously having a great candidate running in 2024. There's always going to be differences, right? Whether they're in, the Democrat Party, you see that they're kind of split, right? You got the extreme left and the socialists, and then you got the moderate Democrats. And I think we're kind of in that same pool here in the Republican Party. So, if the establishment wants to continue with the old ways, let them do so. But I think moving forward, we're going to be going in the direction that President Trump kind of put us on. And that is basically, pushing the establishment aside and saying, look, this is the new way of the GOP. We're going to have minorities. We're going to make sure they have platforms, and we're going to get behind them and support them financially. We're going to make sure donors see them and understand their messages. And we're going to go into inner cities and we're going to say, look, this is what needs to change. And we think we can do that with conservative values. We're all about family structure. We're all about school choice. And there's so many things that we can be implementing in every inner city across the country that will benefit many, many Black people moving forward.
And we've been speaking about our former president, President Trump. Now let's talk about Joe Biden. What do you think of his policies he's putting forth right now? What are your thoughts on his current time so far in the White House?
Well, I see first, he's put a lot of executive orders out, and I know that a lot of people said that President Trump had a few executive orders, and he did, but now President Biden, I think he's close to 50 executive orders. The one that I'm most concerned about, I think right now, is the one that has to do with immigration. They're tearing down a wall that we basically already paid for. That was taxpayer dollars. And then on top of that, they're re-implementing the catch and release program. And so if they catch a criminal on the southern border, they might not know it's a criminal, right? That's just an illegal alien. But they're releasing them back into cities across America, where they can cause havoc. And a lot of times, these individuals do end up in inner cities. I am pro-American, but you know what? I'm a Black woman at the same time, and I am for predominantly Black communities and making sure that we get ahead or even have an equal standing. And I think that's going to hurt us moving forward.
And do you believe that these immigrants are taking jobs? Because, they're taking, if you look at the statistics, they're taking jobs that a lot of people don't even want. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, are they jobs that people don't want? I don't know. I know people right now that if they had a job opportunity, they would take it, and so for me, I don't see if it's jobs that someone doesn't want. If you don't have a job and you want to go to work, you will go and work in that job. But again, that's why the First Step Act was so crucial that came out of the President Trump's administration, because again, we want not just jobs, we want careers. We want benefits. We want to make sure our kids have a quality of life that every American wants to give their child. And so for me, you can look at illegal immigrants coming across the border and they might have a job, say, doing a dishwashing job. That could have been, some high school kid that wanted that job as well and earning extra bucks after school. I don't know exactly where you live, but here in Baltimore, we have what they call squeegee kids. And we actually have kids running through traffic, washing windows for dollars. I don't want these kids out here running through traffic. So if they could be inside a restaurant washing dishes, that's where I'd rather them be than in a dangerous situation. So again, I don't think these are jobs that people don't want. Maybe it's not first on our list, but there are lots of teenagers and lots of other people that can actually work in these jobs.